we have two cohorts currently actively participating. We have a DC cohort that has 16 fellows, and we have a Chicago cohort, our first ever here in Chicago. We started with 10, we have 9 now, but we have 9 wonderful fellows. And then we have Maurice here to kind of tell his entrepreneurial story. What we do here at Dog Tag is exactly that. We run a living business school for transitioning service members with service-connected disabilities. And we also are inclusive of their military spouses and their caregivers. Even here in Chicago, we recognize that active duty folks that are leaving the service really need some of that transitional help. So we make exceptions for active duty as well as Guard and reservists. So if this sounds like something for you, please let us know. Our biggest goal is to help empower fellows to rediscover their purpose. As we see here, and we do so through a program that's steeped in entrepreneurism. So we really want to make sure that we are imparting all the education that we possibly can into these fellows in the 5 months that we operate our cohort. So just really quick on the basics of that 5-month fellowship. These are our upcoming dates for the summer, but we do run 2 cohorts per year. You'll see at the bottom of the screen there, 16 in DC. And as we start building out our Chicago cohort, we'll graduate that 10 up to 16 eventually as we continue to prove out the model here in Chicago. But it is 5 months long, which means we do 2 cohorts a year. We program from January to May, and we take June off. And then we program from July to November, as you see here for our summer cohort. And then we take December off as a team just to kind of recalibrate and get ready for the next cohort. Each one of those cycles has a full week break. In the spring, it's spring break. And then in the fall, it is our fall break, which for this next cohort will be September 5th through the 9th. And we line those up with holidays, right? So our spring break's going to line up in March, and then our fall break will be over Labor Day week. Right now, as we're speaking, we run our 2 fellowships in tandem at the same time. So 8 to 3 p.m. here Central Time, where I'm at here in Chicago, and then 9 to 4 p.m. Eastern, where most of our staff is in DC. So we align those schedules so we can also collaborate on some of the different parts and elements of our program. And those programs, very briefly, are these 5: academics, experiential learning labs, which is really kind of our speaker series, and I'll get into that in a little bit. We have obviously a well-being and reflection wellness portion to our program. And then lastly, but certainly not least, is our capstone program, which is really helping our fellows design their business plan from scratch, from an idea to something, tangible that they can take with them after they graduate our program. In terms of academics, in DC, as Bob mentioned earlier, we do partner with Georgetown University. And here in Chicago, we partner with Loyola University Chicago. 2 fantastic educational institutions that have built some custom curriculum for us, for our fellows, so they can go and get that structured education, that basic foundation of business under their belt through traditional classroom, in order to apply that, hands-on in our rotations in that experiential learning bit. So this are the 6 classes that you can expect to take if you're going to be in our DC group. And then if you're going to be in our Chicago group, these are the 7 classes that we look at. Most of them are the same. One call out is that supply chain essentials. Here in Chicago and in the Midwest, there is a lot of opportunity in supply chain and operations. Excuse me. And also in our service members and spouses, there's a lot of experience in supply chain, especially here in the Midwest. As people get stationed here, they learn those things. So we wanted to integrate that as part of our program as well. But standard education to really help build those basics of learning, right? That 101 foundational level education. And then they can take this experience and bring it to what we call rotations. So that's this experiential learning part, where we get fellows to actively participate in our small business in that bakery that we have in DC. The idea that Father Rick Curry had was, kind of the teach someone how to fish instead of just giving them food for a day. So we do that, right? Instead of giving a veteran a job, we teach them how to be entrepreneurs and own small businesses. And in doing so, we give them the opportunity to work alongside our staff at our bakery, not necessarily making cookies, but learning the operations and our development strategy, our finances, marketing, communications. They really get to get all of the aspects of small business, in this experiential learning platform. So
Justin, do you have a bakery in Chicago?
we do not yet, Bob. We are working on getting physical space probably in the next year, but our
Good.
goal here for Chicago is to develop the program, get the pilot off the ground, and the fortunate or unfortunate side effects of COVID allows us to be virtual, which is great. So we're able to do our cohort virtually, and the next cycle will also be virtual for both locations, just as we navigate out of this pandemic. But we hope to, in the very near future, establish some kind of brick and mortar or some kind of physical hybrid program. So we journeyed into COVID figuring out how to go from a completely 100% in-person program to all virtual, and now we'll have to navigate leaving the virtual space and going back to in-person or that hybrid model. The benefits of being virtual is that we can cater to more people beyond our metro areas, right? So traditionally DC, if you were living in the area, you had access to the program. If you didn't live in the area, you didn't. But now with our virtual offering, we can really help out anyone. And currently in our Chicago cohort, I've got two military. I got a spouse in Idaho, Air Force spouse, and I've got a veteran in Oklahoma that's programming with us. So that really gives us the luxury of opening that up to everyone. So we'll be able to do that next cycle as well. Thank you for the question. And so this is just the experiential part where they really get to have that hands-on experience through that rotations platform. Learning labs, I like to call it a speaker series. This is when we really build in, outside of the classroom and the rotations and the capstone course, all these things that we have that are really structured curriculum. In between all of those sessions, we have gaps, and we fill those gaps with subject matter experts, resource providers, storytellers. We invite, folks like Maurice, to come back and tell their story like he's going to do today. And we find, veteran business owners, small business owners to come in and tell their story. As an example, we also impart some of that education around corporate culture and offsite experiences. We try to make this portion of it very robust and also very engaging, with the core goal of to help our fellows network within their metro areas. So the majority of the speakers that come and speak to our Chicago Fellowship, for example, are from the greater Chicagoland area. They may or may not be veterans themselves, but they're offering their time beyond their speaking engagements to really network with our fellows and help them through some of those barriers, if they have the services offered. So it's a really great opportunity to bring in external partners, talk about resources, and really give those fellows all the tools that they need to succeed. And when we're talking about tools to succeed, wellness is a big portion of that. Excuse me. So we have, we build in journaling and reflection, mindfulness. Of course, we bring in activities like yoga and meditation. But the biggest part of the wellness that we offer is the Finding Your Voice theater class. You might be thinking, what is a theater class doing in an entrepreneurial program? And it's really that simple. We want our fellows to find and rediscover their purpose. And this class affords them that opportunity 3 hours every other week to learn how to tell their story. As veterans, and sometimes as spouses of veterans, we struggle with being able to tell our story, and tell it succinctly and in a way that helps engage other people in our own walks of life. So this theater class is really purpose built for that. And a lot of it goes back to our history with Father Rick Curry. He found theater as a medium between disabled individuals and abled individuals. And so theater was always his medium to help folks get, over their disability and apply it in ways that they would never be able to do before. So he's taken that idea, went to Walter Reed, and now we have Dog Tag. And then the last part is very easy to review. It's our capstone project. Again, we help our fellows come up with whatever their idea is for business, or perhaps they're doing it as a side hustle already, or they have just started on their own. Whatever that idea is, that business model is, we help put that on paper, help them build their business plan. And at the end of our 5 months, they get to do their pitch presentations on their plan. And it is really wonderful to see them go from ideation to actual business plan in something tangible for them to take with them as they graduate. When you are an alumni, you are an alumni for life. So these programs that we have, you have access to for your tenure as an alumni, which will hopefully be never ending, which is good. I'll quickly go over the eligibility requirements, and I think then we'll be done. I can stop sharing my screen and we can address any questions before we turn it over to Maurice. So just really quickly, DC and Chicago eligibility requirements are very similar. A few of the differences are obviously location. We want to prioritize those in these metro areas. But as I mentioned, since we still are virtual, we will take applications from anyone across the nation, so we can be inclusive of those folks while we have the ability to do so virtually. We are specifically looking for post 9/11 service connected individuals, military spouses, or caregivers of those post 9/11 service connected individuals. Beyond that, like I mentioned earlier, we will work with transitioning service members that are actively leaving the service and finding their first steps in the civilian world. And we also cater to Guard and reservists as they're kind of in an active state of transition all the time, going in 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year, often deploying to either support their state or our country. So we want to make sure that our program is accessible to those individuals as well. A couple other eligibility requirements, they seem kind of on the nose, but they really are purpose built. We want somebody that's going to come into our program to be eager to learn and to be pushed to grow, open to being exploring that entrepreneurship life and civilian careers, and a willingness to really contribute and engage with our cohorts. It's also a full-time commitment. We're talking about Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., like I briefed earlier in the presentation. This is a full-time commitment. So we want to make sure that it's a good fit for us, for that individual, and also for the individual, it's a good fit for them in terms of availability and desire to grow and, and their willingness to be full-time in our program. What we don't want to have is people that come into the program and then have to leave halfway through, but it does happen. People's lives change all the time, and we try to work on a case-by-case basis with individuals as much as humanly possible to make sure that we're giving them the most access to our program before we get to that point where someone may have to step out. It happens, but like I said, on a case-by-case basis, we'll work with any individual to hopefully give them as much access to our program as possible. The Chicago eligibility requirements, again, most of that is all the exact same as DC. The time commitment is different just because of the time zone change. And then we're also really focused on the greater Chicagoland area as our opportunity of need for individuals that are within the greater Chicagoland area. But again, while we're virtual, we want to open that and be inclusive of everyone. The last couple of things are just documentations that we'll require through the application. Pretty standard for veterans or spouses, proof of service. So generally speaking, that's a DD form 214. If you're a veteran, if you're active duty, it would be a copy of your orders. VA documentation of your VA rating disability, so we can verify that we are, serving those service-connected individuals that we cater to. And then, of course, a letter of recommendation. This can be from anybody as long as it's not a family member or a medical provider. So it really could be a battle buddy, a former employer or employee. It could be a mentor, somebody like that. But we do require that as part of the eligibility process.